welcome to GAD World. We're joined by Satyaki Raghunath, Chief Strategy and Development Officer, and Bhaskar, Chief Financial Officer of Bangalore International Airport. Thank you so much for joining me today. So, Satyaki, let's start with you. Tell us about the new developments at Bangalore Airport, just to set the scene.
Lily, as you know, Bangalore Airport opened in 2008, and we have grown in leaps and bounds. We've tripled in traffic volumes from about 9 million in our first year of operation, which was 2008-9, to about 27 million in the 10th year. And last year we handled 33 million passengers. Over the course of the next decade, we fully expect to sort of triple again in terms of traffic volumes to be between 80 and 90 million passengers. And in order to cater to that sort of demand level that you're seeing and the growth that you're seeing in India, and Bangalore especially, which has outpaced Indian aviation growth, we are delivering a new runway which will be operational in the next month or so. First phase of a second terminal, which will be operational in March 2021, and various other landside improvements in terms of access corridors, support facilities, utilities, etc. That will set the stage for the first phase of development. The second phase beyond that will be a second phase of Terminal 2, and we've also reserved enough land and space on the airport for a third terminal, should it be required. And in the meanwhile, we will refurbish Terminal 1 at some point, which is our existing terminal. And we'll also have significant investments in cargo, in support functions, utilities, the metro, which will come in with a multimodal transport hub also scheduled to be operational in the early 2020s, and various other developments. So over the course of the next 10 years, I think we're going to be a construction site one way or the other in order to cope with this growth.
And Bhaskar, with so many developments underway, how do you manage investors' return expectations?
Well, it's a challenging question actually. So as you know, Bangalore Airport is a public-private partnership, and so the key requirement under the concession agreement is that we build airport capacity as it is required, and this is quite evident to both the shareholders, private shareholders who are about 74% and public who is about 26%. And we do have these discussions happening within the board and with the investors constantly as to the requirement of capital that we require for doing all the capacity building, as well as we also do recognize the need for cash outflows by way of dividends, etc. And we make sure that this alignment is completely managed with the shareholders as we do our expansions, and as Satyaki said, the next 10 years of capacity enhancement that will be required.
And how does this impact your financial planning?
So that's one of the key challenges for the CFO. In fact, we have to make sure that there's adequate cash available for expansion, make sure that the tariffs which work on a lag to the expansion cash outflows match well with the commitments for the new capacity operations, as well as to make sure that the lenders' commitments are met fully. And this we do through a careful forecasting, making sure that, and tariffs are generally based upon the forecasted passenger numbers. And so that's where Satyaki comes in quite clearly to make sure that the forecastings on the passenger growth is well metered, such that our tariffs and our revenues match our outgoes. So that's a key challenge for any CFO within an airport, and very much for the Bangalore Airport as such.
I believe this is where you come in.
I think just to sort of add to what Bhaskar said, our challenge in India is, and especially with the airport sector, is the fact that we are a fully regulated entity, as you know, and we operate in 5-year sort of consultation period cycles. So one of the interesting challenges is, as you deliver this capacity to meet this demand forecast, right, is to make sure that when you conceptualize the projects, when you sit down with the economic regulator, and when you get approvals from the regulator, all of those are done in synchronization with the consultation or what the control periods are, right? The 5-year control periods, because otherwise there ends up being a huge cash flow mismatch. And every time we end up either saying you're under recovering or over recovering because of traffic forecasts not always panning out exactly the way they're forecast, there's a challenge in terms of making sure that the cash flow requirements are matched to what you actually end up getting. And I think that's something that Bhaskar's team, our CEO, the board, investors, and our teams on the forecasting side and on the revenue side, right, work very closely together in order to make sure that all of these things are very tightly knit together, to make sure that we don't have any of those sort of mismatches, because that's the key for us. In order to meet our equity contributions, our debt service coverage ratios and obligations to all of our sort of lenders, as well as make sure that we have enough cash for operating expenses and all of the sustaining capex that we have to do, we need to make sure that all of this is synchronized. And I think the public sector shareholders, the government of Karnataka and the Ministry of Civil Aviation, have also been exceptionally sort of proactive in terms of making sure that they are working closely with us in order to help in alleviating any of those sorts of concerns, helping with access to the airport through the metro discussions, and working closely with us and the airlines to talk to the economic regulators. So I think it's truly, I think I would say that BIAL is a very good example of a public-private partnership, and where the comprehensive strengths of both sectors, the private sector management capabilities and the public sector sort of government support and shareholding and governance in terms of making sure that policy and public and economic good is also articulated in the best way possible.
So actually, I would just like to add one more point on this is the next 10 years, I mean, I'll go back to the panel discussion that we had yesterday, structuring of financing, especially the borrowings that we need to do for capacity addition, has to be quite well thought and made sure that, the commitment to lenders are evenly spaced, such that the airport is comfortable in servicing the lenders' commitments, as well as to making sure that adequate cash flow is available for expansion as well as for the operations.
Satyaki and Bhaskar, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thank you.